I'm setting off on a journey to make my most ambitious film project yet.
Camera rolling.
Around the world, the climate is in crisis.
My world is melting.
It's a scary thing to think about.
This terrifies me.
And the people who are paying most are the poorest people in the world. What a gross injustice.
Our survival is at stake.
How are we going to build a better world?
I should use my tools to make some change.
So I'm travelling the length of the UK to get to the next climate change conference, COP26, where world leaders will discuss the future of life on Earth. Along the way, I'll share stories of people who are on the front lines of climate change. So wild, it's like stepping into the Garden of Eden. Activists, inventors, and experts.
Every time you plant a seed, you're planting a bit of hope.
Those whose voices have often been ignored.
We are forgotten people.
This is our chance to take action.
It's inspiring to hear that it can be a part of the solution.
All it takes is for the right people to listen. This is Seat at the Table. The heating of our world is playing havoc with the Earth's weather patterns. So much so that the number of weather-related disasters has increased fivefold over the past 50 years. In the UK, the Met Office is mission control for all things weather-related. It has supercomputers and experts dedicated to monitoring and predicting the impacts of climate change on the weather. Dr. Rosie Oakes is at the forefront of this work. Hey, Rosie, how's it going?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Jack, nice to meet you. I'll give you one of those COVID elbow.
Welcome to the Met Office.
I mean, this is amazing. What do you do here at the Met Office?
So I work in international climate services, which is a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
But,
What does that mean?
Essentially, it means we take the outputs from the climate model that the Met Office runs, and we talk to real people around the world about the problems that they're facing linked to climate change, and we provide information to them that will help them make decisions.
On the way to see Rosie's work, I got a little distracted.
This area of low pressure then will dominate through...
I've always wanted to see how this works, although I probably didn't need my rucksack. So they can see. So it's going to be 15 degrees in Glasgow and 14 degrees in Birmingham. God, that's so cool.
You look like a natural, you're ready. Maybe
I don't know.
changing career, that's it.
I guess we can think of the weather forecast as our alarm system. It's there to keep us safe. And the whole thing hinges on some pretty powerful technology.
We have a supercomputer and it does 14,000 trillion calculations per second. So it's 2 million calculations per second for every human on the planet.
This shows just how complex the world's weather systems are. But the team here have used this vast computing power to map weather changes in the near future, revealing there'll be a worrying increase in extreme weather of all types.
The next slide is where they've all overlapped.
Just looking at that map is sort of fascinating and terrifying. It's showing river flooding, extreme heat, drought, but it's predominantly located in the global south, all on top of each other.
As you can see in sub-Saharan Africa, they're projected to be negatively impacted by almost all the hazards.
My overwhelming takeaway from chatting to Rosie is that although extreme weather will affect us all, it's the global south that will bear the brunt of it. For the most part, the same people which have done the least to cause climate change. Modelling and mapping are critical for us to understand the risks we face. But I also want to find out how we can best address them and start to find solutions.
Check that guy's recording.
I'm going to start a little closer to home on the very familiar River Thames. Whee! There we go.
Hey, bro. Oh, how's it going, dude? Hey, man.
This is Finn, my twin brother. What a coincidence.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, collision course.
10 years ago, we created a YouTube channel together. We got up to mischief making films about all sorts of things. But then, everything changed.
My brother Finn came to me and he said, "Hey, Jack, I want to make a film about climate change."
Well, this is sort of a big deal. This is our re-entrance onto YouTube. Dressed almost identically.
Surrounded by swans.
2 blue kayaks going down the River Thames.
I mean, I wouldn't have pictured it any other way.
What do you guys think about climate change? Yeah, don't think they're a fan. So I feel like my unhealthy obsession with climate change is completely your fault. It is. What was your big turning point? You went off to study architecture, and I just remember you calling me and being like, "Dude, this climate thing, it's huge, and we need to understand it, we need to talk about it." And then you started to send me research and papers, and I fell into this sort of climate hole that I think you had been in.
The first thing we were asked to do was to design a flood barrier, and for me it was imagining a flood barrier on the River Thames in London to protect the city from rising sea levels. And I think it was the first time that I realized that it was going to impact me in my lifetime, and that it was going to impact me at home in a place that I grew up in. And it's a shame that it takes such a personal and direct link for us to care about it, but that's really what kicked me into action. That I started really wanting to learn as much as I could and work out how we could make an impact.
I come full circle to be here, and we're making this episode about flooding. You know, we have to acknowledge climate change is nothing new. It's been happening to people all around the world for many years. If people in the wealthy global north aren't feeling the effects of climate change, how do you make them wake up? This year, it feels as though everyone's woken up with floods in Germany, extreme heat across Europe. We can't wait for it to be happening on our doorstep in order to turn this thing around. We need to prepare for the changes that are coming down the line. And I guess that's what this place that we're going to today is all about, right? Yeah, made it.
We made it.
Well done.
That was pretty good.
That was a nice little paddle, wasn't it?
This is HR Wallingford,
I have absolutely no idea what we're in for.
where some of the world's leading experts on flooding are based.
Hi. Dave. Hey, Dave. Jack. Hey, Dave. I'm Finn.
Great. Welcome to HR Wallingford.
Wow. It's huge.
It's a huge scientific testing laboratory. Come up with me, guys, and I'll show you.
Wow, look at this thing. It looks like a wave machine.
We can generate wave conditions from the UK or from anywhere else in the world so that we represent real-world conditions from real sea states, the sort of flooding and wave levels that you get in towns and cities.
So how deep is this?
So we're at about 1/2 meter here.
Wow, it's actually hard to move your legs through this.
So it gives you a real impression of what it's like if the water's coming in and you need to get away. This is a flood-proof door that's just fully sealed in so that even in 1 meter of water, none of that water is going through the door. You don't need the barrier there under normal circumstances, but then when you know there's a flood coming, you get it out of your garage and you can drop it down into the slots so it fits over the front of your door and protects your house from the floodwaters when they arrive. It's important that we're not only simulating the effects of the water, but also the kind of impacts that we get from debris, so from the trees and the branches and the bins and the cars and everything that we see that is in that debris flow going through the flooded areas. And so these are exactly the kinds of tests that we need to do to make sure that this kind of infrastructure is going to stand up to those levels of impact.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
After I've counted from 1.
Okay.
1. I mean, I suppose what you simulated there is the unexpected when that is going to happen, and that was ferocious.
Wow.
Can you imagine being on the inside of that? Like, that's your house, and you have debris hitting your door, hitting your walls. That's absolutely terrifying. And I suppose, it could be objects way bigger than that.
At least the barrier held up.
When you see the recent floods, for example, in Germany, it must highlight the importance of your own work and the urgency of it.
It's utterly devastating to see the difficulties and the pain that people go through. When they tell you 100 people, 200 people, 300 people have lost their lives, every single one of those people has a family and people that love them and care for them, and every single one of those people had hopes and dreams of things that they were going to do the day after. It's a whole life that is taken away with each one of those statistics.
This scene of utter devastation is the German town of Ahrweiler.
There were a few days of heavy rain before the night where the flood came. It was not typical for this time of the year.
Enormous devastation and people whose lives have been ripped apart.
There was water coming out of the walls, and the water level was rising up. The lights shut off, and everything was dark. I am Mareike. I am 27 years old, and I come from Germany, and the city is called Ahrweiler. Ahrweiler is a really idyllic place. It's the river close there, it's the vineyards, it's nature around. I met my wife 7 years ago. She is just fabulous. Our wedding day was just a perfect day. I was so excited that I could cry all the time. I couldn't imagine that it would be such a happy and sunny day. We were just a really lucky couple getting married.
Just 10 days later,
we decided to walk to the river and take a look. We saw that the water level was so high, it was almost touching the bridge. That was the moment we were realizing that we need to get back home because I had a bad feeling. The water rose really fast. My wife was outside. There was more and more water in the streets. I couldn't barely think.
the flood swept through the Ahr Valley after extreme record-breaking rains in the days before, leaving over 180 people dead, with many more missing. After being separated in the storm, Mareike and her wife were safely reunited the next day.
It was just a huge relief that she was back.
Overnight, the water had ripped through the heart of the valley. But by morning, it was gone, leaving behind a devastating trail of destruction.
I felt helpless and heartbreaking to see our home like that. The people were coming outside the houses and were looking around and were just speechless. And our neighbors were helping everywhere, and we stood together through that time. There were definitely ordinary people becoming heroes that night. Looking at the surrounding now, it makes me angry and sad and kind of overwhelmed what nature can show us.
Whilst much of the world is now being impacted by extreme weather, more than 90% of deaths related to weather disasters have happened in the global south. It highlights the deep responsibility of the richer countries of the north to provide assistance to those that need it the most.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Marika. That was the same time. We don't normally do that.
Jack and I talk a lot about resilience when we're facing climate change. Where have you found resilience while going through such a traumatic event such as this flood?
I found resilience with our friends and families who came right away to help out, but also with the nature around us where we could go to calm down.
I imagine the last few weeks have been incredibly tough as your life has been turned upside down. What's the future for you and your wife?
We try to build up our home again, make it more beautiful, and we also think about which materials we want to use to get more sustainable.
Part of the event we're doing at COP26 is that we're taking chairs from around the world from some of our contributors. Tell me a little bit about that chair.
I hope it can tell a message, because there's still some mud on, because it was in the kitchen where also water was, and maybe a reminder that we need to change.
I wonder if you have a specific message that you'd like to communicate to the leaders and CEOs of corporations who are in that room.
I want to say that the people who has the power to change should use it. Many people are already suffering of the climate change. Every day counts.
It shouldn't have taken this event to happen for people to wake up in Europe to the fact that we're in a climate crisis, and I'm sorry that it had to happen to you, but I guess we can all hope that this is a catalyst for the urgent change that's needed.
I hope so too.
Do you know what? It's so nice to have you here.
Thanks for bringing me along.
We started our YouTube channel 10 years ago this year.
Well,
that feels like a lifetime ago. I mean, we were like children. Now we have 10 years, we're told, left to tackle this issue. I think that's what the last few years have been, is this sounding of the alarm, like awareness building, right? The next step is action.
We spend so much time talking about the climate, the environment, which can feel totally abstract, but really what it's about and what this show is about is the human story and how it impacts all of us. And so when you talk about system change or what we want to see out of COP, it's about making sure there's greater equity. If you had a chance to speak to someone who was in the same place we were 6 years ago, they were just starting to learn about this issue, they didn't know where to start, what would you say to them?
That's a huge question. I'd say, A, it's okay that you don't know enough. No one does. B, it's okay that you're a hypocrite. We all are.
Right.
C, don't be afraid to just go deep into this topic, because it's exciting. It is exciting. You start looking at the world in a totally different way when you ask, how can it be better? How can it work better for people?
Right.
And that is exciting. It changes the whole way you see the world.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. I will cheers to that and to the next 10 years.
To the next 10 years.
I like that. Finn, how are you feeling about your outfit this morning?
I feel quite vulnerable in this outfit. It's pretty good for some good stretches in the morning.
The next part of my journey to Glasgow takes me through the heart of the Peak District. And before he leaves, being the competitive brother that he is, Finn wants a race.
Well, I don't call it the Peak District for nothing. Yeah, I think it's sort of bigger and wilder than I imagined. Yeah, more beautiful. Nice one.
Good job. What's your best sheep sound? Go on. What you got?
I'll leave that to the sheep.
All right.
Wow.
So where did I start my journey? Isles of Scilly. South. In the south. There. So 3 weeks ago, I started there in the Isles of Scilly. And now we're headed that way.
Up to Glasgow.
A few people have asked me on this trip, so do you feel hopeful for COP26? I don't know. Will world leaders rise to this challenge? That's the big question.
Next time, I'm going to meet those on the front lines of tackling another impact of extreme weather: wildfires.
This is the worst thing any firefighter wants to witness.
It's madness. This is the biggest threat that we've got.
I mean, the heat this thing is kicking off is insane.
And experience what it feels like to be a firefighter.